Hi, this is Qiaosheng. I'm a PhD student in the Faculty of Classics, second year, doing comparative studies of ancient Greek and Chinese medicine.
I'm very old. I'm Geoffrey Lloyd. I've been working on Greek philosophy and science for years and years and years, but in 1987, after a fantastic visit to Beida in China, I decided I needed to learn classical Chinese. And since then, I've been at least half my time has been devoted to Chinese studies, and I'm delighted to have such enthusiastic young Chinese people interested in comparison, just as I am.
I'm Jenny Zhao. I'm a second-year PhD student in the Faculty of Classics at Cambridge. I'm working on comparative studies of ancient Greek and Chinese philosophy, in particular the ethics of Aristotle and the Chinese philosopher in the Warring States period called Xunzi. I actually did my undergraduate studies in Cambridge as well as MPhil, and now I'm on to the PhD. I'm very glad to be joined by Qiaosheng, who's also working on comparative studies.
What is exciting about the conference, from my perspective, and I think also from yours, is that comparative studies offer a way forward to understand ancient civilizations that hasn't been exploited before. So often each specialist concentrates on their own special subject, their own civilization. Greek scholars study Greece, Chinese scholars study China, and so on. And they don't look beyond the boundaries at other civilizations. Whereas if you do look at other civilizations, you discover things can't be taken for granted, and that raises a whole lot of problems and the prospect of new understanding by being cross-cultural. And the other main thing about the conference that is absolutely spot on from the point of view of CRASSH, one of our generous sponsors, is that it's interdisciplinary. That it's not just philosophy, it's not just medicine, it's every field that we can think of, and art is represented, and medicine is represented, of course, and we have methodological discussions. We have people coming from all over the world to exchange ideas, and I think it's likely to be a very important breakthrough for classical studies and Chinese studies, and for the joining together of both.
Actually, when I introduce myself to other people that I'm doing comparative studies, I was always asked by a question: why you do comparative studies?
Right.
And I found that I thought about this question for a long time, and the best answer I think that I can provide for people is that why not? why not do comparative studies? You should do it.
Right.
Otherwise you can't understand the real issue of the fundamental questions.
I'm really looking forward to the discussions on the methodology of comparison, because they're the questions that every comparativist is faced with in their work, no matter what discipline you come from. So the questions are what can and cannot be compared, and what are the pitfalls in doing comparative work.
Right. I think we're all very conscious that it's very difficult, because so often in the past people who attempted comparisons have just taken one item from one civilization and one item from another civilization and said, oh, it's something a bit the same, a bit different. But that's absolutely hopeless. The other thing that, of course, prejudices comparative studies and gets them a bad name is that people do it from the perspective of one civilization, as if one civilization provided the model that every other civilization should follow. Whether it's Chinese scholars saying that China has the answer, or particularly Western scholars saying, well, we have philosophy and science, and we have invented all of these disciplines, so other civilizations can be judged against us, which is absolutely monstrous, because Chinese philosophy, Chinese science is very different. it is important to see that it's not the same as Western ways of doing things, but that's exciting because that opens up the possibility of a much wider, more ecumenical, worldwide, universal understanding of what these various human ambitions and endeavours amount to.
We often say that we want to see two sides of the picture, and I find that in doing comparative work, some of the questions that we ask, for example, in my work on ethics, how should one live? It's a question that's faced by all cultures, no matter how they formulate the question.
Right.
So if you just look at one culture, I find that you're limiting yourself to one side of the picture, whereas if you look further afield, then you can see how various different cultures face the question, or how they ask their questions, what sort of concerns they had, and how they approach the question.
Sure. And Qiaosheng, your work on embryology, the views that people entertained about the human being, the human body,
yes,
and about gender difference are being revealed by your study of particular texts, particular Greek texts and Chinese texts, which can tell us about the assumptions made about the body. So say a little bit about...
Well, my work is got through a point, just a cut point. That's actually a small cut point that we are trying to understand ancient people's understanding of the body, but my point of view is just through the understanding of the beginning of life. Through this point of view, we're trying to find out what the assumptions about the body, and especially through the embryological text, what they found in the beginning of life, the assumptions about the gender differences, how a man got to be different from a woman from the most beginning, and we found that from those texts we found that they had some all sort of maybe enough scientific improvement of the gender differences, which will be provide us some insight into the social and economic or other aspect, and even political differences between male and females.
Sure.
So that would be just so my approach is that trying to get this small point to look the big picture. That one of my concern is that in the field of comparative studies, different people have different approaches. So that is one problem. But on the other hand, it's also something very interesting because we can find all sorts of ways to doing comparative studies. So there is no definite approach of doing things, but we can provide different styles and different approaches.
And one of the world experts in terms of Greek and Chinese ideas about the body is this chap Kuriyama, who will be coming. And then the work, we expect Vivian Lowe and Ellie Rem to talk about sex. And Yi Chun Cho is going to talk about femme fatale. Pretty exciting in ethics. Of course, Richard King will be coming.
Lisa Raffles will be talking about Zhuangzi and Aristotle, I believe.
Yes. And so we have a very mixed range of contributions, and lots of time for discussion. What will come out of it remains to be seen, but if it's possible that some edited volume will come out of it. There's been expressions of interest from publishers about what we might do. Of course, turning a conference contribution into a chapter in a book is quite difficult. So it will be hard work if we do it. But the first thing, of course, is to make sure that we use the opportunity to talk with one another to the best advantage.
Yeah, it's a rare opportunity that we gathered a lot of famous philologists and classes from all over the world to have a discussion.
Sure. And I must say, it was these two that had the idea. It wasn't me that had the idea. I was delighted, of course, but it wasn't me that had it. It was these two who said, look, here's a chance to get some people together in Cambridge under the auspices of CRASSH as one of our sponsors.
So what we have done is we've invited 10 speakers from different fields and disciplines to talk for 20 to 25 minutes, each on a topic of their own choosing. And then there will be 35-40 minutes for discussions. Aside from those 10 sessions, we also have 2 public talks, one to be given by Professor Nathan Sivin, which will be held on the 24th at CRASSH, and that's titled Why Some Comparisons Make More Differences Than Others. There's another public talk which will be held on the last day of the conference, on the Saturday, and that's given by Professor Christopher Cullen, who will talk about his own experiences in making comparisons. I think those public talks will raise some very interesting questions on the methodology of comparison, and also I believe the speakers will talk about their own personal experiences in their comparative work. I think a lot of people that I've spoken to in classics who don't work academically on comparative studies are very much interested in what comparativists get up to and the questions that they're most interested in. So we hope that this will appeal to comparativists and non-comparativists alike.